Hey everyone, welcome back to BrowncoatNerd. If you're wondering what in the hell's going on right now, I thought I might get some more views if I had cats like Michiko, but I couldn't find a cat. I could only find this weird looking large rat. Yeah. I don't think he likes being up on the table. Are you freaking out? Come here. Oh. Okay. Don't think little Boog is ready for the interwebs yet. So, what we got here today, I'm going to give you just a quick, hopefully quick, I know I tend to ramble on, kind of rundown of my first impressions of shooting the old Recoil CETME L. So first off, this isn't really going to be a accuracy test or durability test. This is just kind of my very rough first impressions of this gun. I have got two other videos on this. I've got kind of the history of this gun and specifically information about this being Recoil build and what they did differently. I have another video kind of going over some of the accessories, which isn't really a whole lot. But before I shot those videos, or at least the very first one, I hadn't had a chance to shoot the gun at all. So I kind of wanted to give you a brief rundown of what I thought shooting the gun. Once again, I wasn't really even able to shoot as many rounds as I would like to before giving you guys my shooting impressions. Obviously, I'm filming this during the whole COVID crap, and ammo's kind of becoming a pain in the butt to get. So I shot this gun over 2 different weekends with a total of 280 rounds. So like I said, this definitely isn't a durability test or comparison or anything like that. Just kind of give you a quick rundown. But if you would like to see a durability test, InRange does actually do one of their mud tests on a CETME L. I believe it's a home build, but it does pretty good. So, one quick thing I would like to touch on that I did not go over in my initial overview of this gun is this rear sight here. Now, I had mentioned that Recoil does change out a lot of these parts, pretty much improving them. This rear sight little adjusting drum, not the sight itself, but just this outer piece, that is a replacement. So if you look at like one of the Hill and Max or just pictures of the original ones, you'll see that looks slightly different. And according to Recoil, the reason they did that is the original style just had a tendency to break, and I don't think it was the best design. So they just decided to go ahead and upgrade these a little bit. I think it was kind of a simple fix to make it more durable. By changing that design a little bit and just putting a new one on there. So did want to point that out to you guys. I failed to mention that. And the other thing is normally on this rear sight here, let's just get that hat out of the way. Got a little flip peep. Got 200 and 400 meters. On the original CETME Ls, this peep here, which you cannot see at all really, it was the same size. It changed its height when you switched these sights over. That's all it did. But what Recoil did is with the 200 meter one, they went ahead and widened that hole a little bit, made it a little bit bigger. And looking through that, I do think I appreciate that. You know, obviously I can kind of get an idea of what it would look like by switching to 400 meters. And it is a pretty small hole. So I kind of like that they widened the 200 meter one, kind of more of a, I don't know if you want to say a battle sight or whatever, but that is something else they did differently that the Hill and Mac ones do not have. And obviously if you do a home build, you want to have that either unless you did that yourself. So that's it on the sights real quick. Let's see, like I said, 280 rounds over 2 weekends. The first weekend I took it out, I had 160 rounds. 100 of those rounds were 62 grain. They were Hornady. Or I take that back, it wasn't Hornady, but the company was using Hornady bullets. And of course, I didn't save any of the boxes. I wasn't too familiar with them. It wasn't one of the huge big names. But I had 100 rounds of 62 grain from them. And then I also had 60 rounds of 55 grain Federal of this stuff that I had left over. The Recoil owner's manual recommends using the heavier 62 grain. I don't know if that's as far as specifically reliability or just because the barrel twist, this is a 1 in 7 barrel twist. And I have seen a lot of videos and also comments online of people talking about a quote-unquote break-in period. Not everyone seems to really have to deal with that. I've seen one guy talking about how he was just having all kinds of issues. I think he's getting like failure to feeds and double feeds and stovepipes. And he was using 55 grain, and he went out like the next weekend or the next time he went out and he used the 62 grain. He said he had no issues at all. Like that one little change completely fixed his issue. Now, I don't know if he's tried using 55 grain since then and if that's working smoothly for him. And also, I came across a video on YouTube. Sorry, I forget the guy's name. Not one I normally watch, but he had some videos on the CETME. And I think he was using like 55 grain steel case Tula, which my experience, at least with the pistol ammo, Tula is kind of underpowered a little bit. And you know, unless he edited it out, it seemed like he was having no issues whatsoever with that. And I've seen some people say that they use 62 grain, you know, in the first 50 or 100 rounds, they would occasionally get issues, but after that, you know, it ran just fine. So first weekend, 100 rounds of the 62 grain, 60 rounds of the 55 grain. And I did have one issue each out of the first two mags. So we'll go on the mags real quick here. The first mag I used was obviously the OK Industries mag. Whoops. Which is what the Recoil comes with. It's got a Magpul style anti-tilt follower. These are kind of considered to be a good quality Stinag GI style mag. And my understanding is the Colt mags were actually made by OK. And I do believe they have like civilian versions of the mag as well as the military ones. I have no clue what the difference is, but I've seen them listed like that before. But this is what the gun comes with. And with this mag, this was my very first mag I ran through it. It was like the third or fourth round, I got a stovepipe. You know, cleared it. The rest of the mag went fine. The second mag I used was this Lancer mag. And once again, it was like the third or fourth round, stovepiped, cleared it. The rest of the mag went just fine. And these, they do recommend using only Stinag mags. Well, it's not really recommended. They can only use Stinag mags. Your Magpul mags, this little lug here would have to be ground down in order for these to use. And Recoil has said, yeah, you can do that, but they've been like, just why? Don't waste your time. And they've mentioned how these Phillips here just kind of get worn away and chewed up. So I don't think, from what they were saying, it doesn't sound like a Magpul mag would have really a long life, and one they might die on you. But these Lancer mags follow the profile of the Stinag mag so closely, they do work. So if you're dead set on using a polymer one, your Lancers will work on you. And then the other mags I had brought out, I've got this this Colt, which my understanding is actually an OK. This is, I think, a Vietnam era. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. They're like, I think like late Vietnam era. So I don't know if OK was making it for Colt back then. Just a little 20 rounder with a, I don't know if that's a metal or steel follower, but it's not plastic. And it doesn't tilt at all too. I kind of like that follower. Ran this mag, no issues. I'm going to pause real quick. The Recoil owner's manual does recommend loading the 30 round mags to 28 rounds. I have a Spanish CETME manual that's been translated to English. I went through that. I cannot find any, it doesn't even go over loading the gun, so it never touches on that. So I don't know if that's Recoil specific or what the story is on that. So all of the mags, both weekends I took it out, were shorted 2 rounds. So the 30s had 28, and the 20 rounders had 18. Another 20 round mag I brought out. I bought this years ago at a gun shop that's not even open anymore. So I don't know if that's an old C product or if that's supposed to be like CF products. Out of Newton, Connecticut. So it's kind of cool. I thought it was like a semi-curved 20 round. Once again, it has the kind of Magpul style follower. Used this mag. I had no issues. I used my For Sure C Products mag. This is my Dr. Pepper Red mag. Ran this. It ran just fine. And this, normally I love this mag, but with the black and green, it looked a little silly. And then I had my Brownell's mag that I have upgraded once again with a Magpul style follower. Yeah, roller delays are extremely dirty, as you can tell by looking at these mags. Ran this mag, it ran just fine. And then I also I showed it in my other videos. I have an original CETME 12 round mag. It's a little baby mag. It's almost flush with this mag well. Didn't really have any issues with that. The first time I took it out, when I slammed it in here, I went to chamber it and it locked up on me. I was like, what the hell's going on? And the mag had actually over-traveled. So I stuck my fingers in here, pushed it down, and it went through all the rounds just fine. And the CETME mags, they are designed a little bit different. I go over that in the other videos for this. The only reason I got them is just because they're original to the gun. I don't think there's really any benefit to using those CETME mags. They're kind of notoriously made a little out of spec from one another. The quality control wasn't the best. The design of the mag just really wasn't the best. So if you're wondering why I got one, no advantage. I just wanted to get one because, you know, it's a CETME. So that's my rundown on those. Now, the second time I went out, I did not bring along the Brownell's 30 round mag. I believe that one stayed at home. So, I'm going to get these out of the way. That first weekend of shooting it, as you see in a lot of the videos that talk about these, it was a very soft recoil. Now, I've got a T91 AR upper that I reviewed recently. It's a piston-driven upper used by the Taiwanese military. That is a very soft gun. I would say this is softer than that. I will probably take this out and compare it against the T91 as well as my HK93, or more specifically my Century-built C93. And compared to that C93, obviously that's a roller delay too. Slightly different, you know, design. Nothing's really interchangeable on these, but it's the same idea. I think, it's been a while since I've taken my HK out, but I think this is softer than the HK93 as well. And another thing about this is the recoil, the impulse, I mean, it's just like straight back. You get no muzzle flip whatsoever. I mean, it's straight back. It's not harsh at all. It's really easy to do follow-up shots. It's really hard not to just dump your mag. Like the range I go to, it's an indoor range. They actually allow that if you want to do it, but I was trying to get a good feel for the gun, was limited on ammo, so I didn't want to just waste through it. But this is a really easy guy to do that with. And if you haven't seen my other videos, just so you know, this furniture is actually surplus furniture. BrowncoatNerd does produce these with brand new made furniture, and it's a really good copy. There we go. I got the buttstock still with the sling attached to it, still from last time. It's just a much higher quality polymer, and I'm kind of tempted to put the black back on there. The green looks cool, the black looks good too, but this polymer isn't the best. You can see how it's not matching here. That's pretty normal for these. I'm also a little tempted to maybe just order the new green stock set from BrowncoatNerd. You can buy their stock sets just to get the better quality polymer on it. So if you're wondering what the hell's up with the green furniture, that's the story behind that. Another thing to mention, the trigger pull. According to my lineman trigger pull gauge, I did full pulls. The average was 5 pulls, and the average out of those 5 pulls was 6 pounds 4 ounces. So really nothing to write home about there. It wasn't horrible. I mean, it felt smooth. It wasn't really grimy like my CETME C or my Century C308. But that's a horrible trigger. I mean, it's not horrible, but it makes you feel dirty. Another fun note is right when I went to the range, you know, I put my target on the cart or whatever it is, went to go send it down range, and the freaking battery just died on me. So I had to go get one of the guys that worked there, and he came out with his ladder and was getting up there and changing out the battery, and he kind of kept taking double takes at this on the bench. And then he got off and kind of walked up to me and looked back at that. He goes, "That's one of those new CETMEs, isn't it?" I was like, "Oh, wow." He actually knew it was a CETME. Right before I get in there, someone asked me what kind of HK this was. I'll get into that in just a second. But yeah, I was kind of surprised by that. And I was like, "Yeah, actually it is." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "We've been really looking at those. We've been pretty curious about them. If we, as him and his buddies, or him and his gun shop coworker, I have no clue." But he asked me, you know, how it shot, and well, that was my first time taking it out. I was like, "I'll let you know in an hour." But as I was getting this gun out, putting it up to the bench, there was a guy next to me. The range I go to, it's indoor. It's pretty friendly. I've spoken a lot of times with just random people that I don't know there. One time I had my Yugoslavian Mazur, and this guy came up and he was like, "Oh man, is that a Mazur? I've never shot one." And I was like, "Step on up," you know. And then I got to shoot some of the CZs he had. So it's not uncommon there. But I was pulling this out of the bag, and this guy looks over and kind of smiled. And I'm like, "Oh crap, someone recognizes what it is," you know. And he came over and he's like, "That's a pretty sweet HK. What model is that?" I was like, it's not an HK. Like, I get it, you know, it's got the little, you know, the side charging handle, but yeah, it's not an HK. So like, oh no, it's a CETME. And he kind of looked a little confused. And of course, it's, you know, indoor range. That's why we got our ears on. So that ended that conversation. And then as I was finishing up, I was putting this gun up, and I noticed this older gentleman that was shooting to the other side of me just kept giving me these horrible, dirty looks. And, you know, of course, all the thoughts rushed into my head, boomer memes and crap. So I was like, you know what, I bet he's shooting a 1911 or some kind of revolver. Nah, old dude was shooting a Glock. So I was like, oh, okay. Why you mean mugging me then? And then I was like, you know what, it's probably the furniture. This two-tone green and black, I think it's definitely a love it or hate it thing. So he probably, one, was like, why the hell would someone do that? And then two was like, what the hell is that? But seriously, I mean, he is giving me dirty looks. I thought that was kind of funny. So then I went out like 2 weekends later, after I finally sourced some more ammo. It's a pain in the butt. People are going to be like, oh, why don't you stock up? Like, I actually do have a decent stockpile of 5.56, but it's all green tip. And they're not going to let me shoot that at the indoor range. So went out this like 2 weekends later. This time I brought along 120 rounds, and those were all the lighter 55 grain. So I wasn't really sure, you know, how this was going to work with those. And that, once again, was an off-brand. I don't know if it's necessarily an off-brand, but it's one I'm not familiar with. But it was Patriot Defense. And I ordered this from, I believe, 2A Warehouse. I've heard of 2A Warehouse, never ordered from them before. But yeah, good experience. The ammo got out right away. I think it shipped like the next day or 2 days after that. But like I said, it was the 55 grain. That's all I could find that wasn't steel core. And I was kind of wanting to find some of the heavier stuff. But that's what I ended up with, 120 rounds. So the first mag, which I went ahead and threw in my Lancer mag to start out with, as I was chambering it, and I was chambering it like, from what I've seen, they recommend you can either chamber this by holding the charging handle. Okay, so let's say bolt's locked open. You can just let go like that. Or, got a little bolt release button here. And if you just hit that, it'll charge it for you. And that's kind of the way I was going. Just make sure my hand wasn't getting in the way. You know, more forward inertia. Don't know if that really matters at all. But so I was using the bolt hold open button there, or the bolt release, to chamber the round. Very first, I put this mag in, went to go chamber it, and I had a double feed right off the bat. And I was kind of like, crap. Once again, it was loaded with the 28 rounds. Both times I went out, I loaded everything down 2 rounds, or a short 2 rounds. So that was kind of frustrating. Took the mag out, got the rounds out of there, put the mag back in, chambered it again. It chambered just fine, and I rocked through the rest of the mags that day just fine, no issues whatsoever. Another thing a lot of people are very concerned about on these, you'll see a lot of videos of people putting tape on their guns so you don't get this. Now, I've seen some of the Hill and Mac ones, and I've seen like really huge, long, there's a video I talk about in one of my other videos, but this guy just got a Hill and Mac one, and he's like, oh, my first mag dump, and he dumps through the mags, and my memory, and I might be wrong on this, but it seemed like it was a pretty lengthy bit of no paint. I was surprised by that. So I was kind of surprised at how small the spot was, after a total of 280 rounds. And from the first weekend of shooting to the second weekend of shooting, it really looked identical. Like, it didn't look like it got any bigger. See, it's mostly all here. We got a little bit right up there, but I was kind of expecting to see some like little random, marks back here, and yeah, nothing yet. I'm sure with time, that probably will be the case. But for me with this gun, I'm fine with it. You know, wear marks to me, I've said it before, are kind of beauty marks. I'm not going to try to baby a gun. You know, now if I got one of these green ones without the rail and I was trying to go for the true kind of military clone, maybe I would have, but at the same time, you know, that's, you know, maybe a little more authentic. I have looked at some of the pictures of the Spanish soldiers that had these and tried to look for these wear marks, and a lot of the pictures aren't the best quality. I really couldn't see anything. It looks like they lasted pretty well. I'm not sure what kind of coating they use. This is a Cerakote. So maybe they just used a more durable coating on there or something. But to me, that's the signs of a tool being used, you know. So I'm fine with that. A lot of people freak out, but if you're curious, for me, on my Marklemar, you know, that's what it looked like after, what was it, 100, 200, where did I write that down? 280 rounds. So there you go. I was expecting something a little bit worse than that. Another thing I noticed is when I was shouldering this, like I felt like I was just really getting down there on those sights. I don't really know why. Like I kind of compared the sights to my T91 because I've been shooting that recently. It's got a carry handle sight on it, and really it's about the same. And on the second weekend, I do feel like I didn't really have that weird, like, holy cow, I'm really getting down there. So I guess I just got used to it. Maybe I'm just weird. I don't know. So that took me a little bit to get over, but it wasn't anything major. And I will say out of the box, obviously, like I said, it's an indoor range. You got 75 feet maximum, and it was shooting pretty low for me. So I adjusted the sight a little bit. The next time I went out, it's still shooting low, not as low. But pretty much dead center, and the groupings were decent. I'm not a crack shot. I'm not going to pretend I am. I'm a shooter and a collector. Maybe a little more of a collector than shooter, but everything in my collection I do shoot. I enjoy shooting, but I'm not going to sit here and BS you guys and act like I'm some crack shot. So, let's see. So yeah, after the initial double feed on this mag, I had no issues whatsoever that second day. And that was with the lighter 55 grain. So I was kind of anticipating some more issues in that, but yeah, not really at all. One thing I will rant about here shortly is the pins and the direction that you put these pins in. And it's got the pins just like your, you know, the C308s or the CETME Cs and all the HK roller delays. And really, they're universal. I mean, you can put them in either way. And once again, in the manual, the Spanish translated manual as well, it never really says you should put these pins in this direction. It's just like whatever direction you want. But I have some recommendations on these. So this handguard pin, I'd recommend putting it in the way I did, this direction. Because if you got a sling on there and this guy's getting up there and hits that, you have the pin in the other way, you know, it doesn't take much force to push that out. So I'd recommend putting it in this direction so you don't have any chances of this sling pushing that and it popping out and flying out and you losing it, because Marklemar does sell some parts for these, mostly their new production parts like the springs and their furniture set. They do not sell the pins, or at least right now they don't. I'm not sure how easy it is to find these pins on their own or if you're stuck getting a parts kit. Now I do have some information on that. Marklemar is planning on making their own pins sometime in the near future. I have no clue when that is, but this is from the owner of Marklemar. They do plan on making these sometime in the near future. So if you've lost one and you can't find one, you've got that to look forward to whenever that is. So for us that have not lost any yet, let's try to keep them. The one pin that really concerns me, I see a lot of people putting it in the direction that I don't think you should, and it drives me nuts. And looking at old pictures of the Spanish military, I can tell some of these pins are in this way and some of them are in the other way. I highly, 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 highly recommend you put this pin in here and the way I did, the direction I did, which is straight down. Because this is your mag release button, so you're going to be using that. Now, if you should accidentally go up here and hit it, it's right over here. It, like I said, it doesn't take much force for these to start to come out, you know? So I highly recommend putting this pin in this direction so that, you know, if you should hit a little high when you're trying to hit that mag release, you're just pushing that pin, you know, right back in, seated where it needs to be. You're not going to be popping it out. And then, of course, on the butt stock, I don't really think it matters. I came across one video of a guy that says that they were supposed to be crossed like this. I've never seen anything saying that they're supposed to be crossed, but it's really not a bad idea. That way, if you do have something pushed up, worst case scenario, that one's really stiff. Worst case scenario, you know, you're only pushing one out and you still got the other one holding it in there. And if you're wondering why in the hell my sling is so tight on here, the first time I took it out shooting, I do not believe I had the sling on here. And I noticed the handguard got a little warm. It did not get hot, but it got a little warm. And so the second time I went out, I just made the sling tight just so I didn't have a bunch of slack in my way. And then I started thinking, I'm like, well, I could kind of use this. It's like a little bit of an extra heat shield. And the second time out, this did start to get a little bit warm. Once again, not hot. And, you know, slipping this canvas sling underneath a little bit, I couldn't feel any warmth at all whatsoever. It did make operating the safety a little funky because you're kind of, you know. So if you're wondering what's the story on the sling, that's why it's like that. I don't know if I'll keep it like that. I don't even know if I'm going to keep this sling. I might go with something more modern. I do have a C308, so it's the same kind of sling. So that sling has a home one way or another. One thing I forgot to touch on real quick. Sorry, guys. I have seen some owners of the Mars saying that these Lancer mags will not fit. And from what I've seen, it looks like throughout production, Mar has kind of slightly changed the design of their mag well to make it a little bit bigger, so that you can kind of get a more variety of mags. I think they're having some issues with some of the Stinag mags. If you look at the Stinag mags, there's quite a bit of variation on those. And so they kind of widen a little bit. So I think the newer ones, you won't have an issue with the Lancer mags going in there. This particular one is in the 1400 serial range. I'm not guaranteeing you if you've got a higher serial number than that your Lancer mag will work, but I'm pretty sure it will. So just so you know on that. Also, this surplus grip, when I put it on here, there's just a little bit of play in it, very subtle. I just threw 2 washers on the screw that held it in, and that tightened it up. So if you want to go the surplus furniture route, just know you might need to throw a washer in there or something. Nothing major. So, another thing is Mar's been saying this is a limited production of these. And I was like, well, okay, well, what's limited? What, you know, that's such a vague kind of description there. It bugged me. So I've come across a few interviews with the owner where he said that they have bought 10,000 parts kits. And I believe that's specifically the L. They also have the LC and the LV that they are offering. Higher price, way fewer numbers of those will be produced as well. But they got 10,000 parts kits. Like I said, I believe of the L, maybe that was total. They got 10,000 parts kits. And I was like, well, obviously, I'm sure that doesn't mean they'll be making 10,000 guns. I'm sure they'll, you know, have some crappy parts in those and won't be able to make a gun. So I reached out to Mar and I was like, hey, I'm just kind of curious, what is an approximate number of these that you'll be making? And they actually responded back with me, and they said that, and once again, they got 10,000 parts kits, and they will be making 5,000 guns. And I believe they were referring specifically to the L model. The LC, they're making way fewer than that, and the LV, they're making even way fewer than that. So this is going to be a 5,000 run. So there's your limited production number. And I did come across a video too, and I imagine they're still planning on doing it. But they said they plan on putting out some 300 blackout versions of these as well. So that'll be kind of cool, especially if you're wanting to run something suppressed. So I haven't seen any mentions of that for a while. So I don't know if that's still something in the works or when that will be out. Also, recently saw they will soon be offering a quad rail, or not a quad rail, but an M-lock handguard, and it's full length, runs from this exposed heat shield all the way back. I believe it was coming from JMac. And once again, I didn't get an actual release date on that. If you go to the Mar, I don't know if it's on their website or their social media page, but they've got a picture of it on a black, I believe it's an LC, the collapsible stock one. And it looked pretty cool. The one thing that would suck if you got one of these in the green, you know, these look cool because they're all green. Like, I would definitely want to Cerakote that M-Lock handguard green as well to continue on with that kind of, you know, green color. Of course, it would also look cool black because all this would be green up here anyways. But just so you know, you got a few options there. And another thing I was astonished by, much like the Mosin Nagant, if you want to get the best accuracy, you have to attach the bayonet. Yeah, I'm making that up. I did not shoot this with the bayonet on there. I'm not that much of a goober. That was a joke. All right. So my overall like review of this gun, who should get this gun? What is this gun for? Who is this gun for? If you're looking for a gun that is reliable and accurate and dependable, for $1,300 you can get something better than this. Like, don't get me wrong, I love this gun. This gun's badass. I will never get rid of this gun. And I don't want to say this gun's a novelty because it's not. It's fun to shoot, which I guess a novelty could be, but it's also accurate, you know. And I'm pretty sure it'll be plenty reliable with a little more shooting. I'll be giving you updates on that. So it's not purely a novelty. It does do its purpose, but it's just for that price, you know. I'm sure you got better AR options out there. But if you're bored with your AR, if you think the AR is just plain boring looking, if you want to look like you're ready to take on Cobra Command with the rest of the Joes, by God, this is your jam right here. You know, like, I talk about a lot of my guns I take out to the range in the past, so it's kind of neat, you know. It's like, oh, when I take it out, people are like, oh, crap, that guy just HK slapped that thing. He's got an HK93. And to a point, then it's like, oh, God, I'm not trying to draw attention to myself. You know, you feel like a bit of a goober. And then I go to the range and I pull this black and green monstrosity out. But it's definitely a fun gun. It's definitely going to be a unique gun. And like I said, it's not a pure novelty. It works. It does its job. But for the price, you could probably get something more accurate, especially something that you could customize more. There's not a whole lot of options on these. But if you just are bored with your regular gun, you want something that's fun. Like I said, the recoil impulse on this is really smooth. Maybe you're very recoil sensitive and 5.56 is just still a little bit too much for you. This softens it up another degree. So I kind of think that's, you know, really who the best person this gun is for. Someone that just wants something a little bit different. Or maybe you're just a history nerd and you like collecting military, you know, issued rifles. This is definitely still a very unique one. Like I said, you know, Mark Lamar is going to be making 5,000. Hill and Mac, I think they either made like 1,000 or 2,000. And then, of course, you'll have your home builds out there. But there's just not a lot of these. And it's a very unique gun. It's not based on the AR. You know, you might argue and say it's based on the HK, but in reality, the HK is based on the CETME's design. You know, of course, going back to the 59 or the C or whatever. So this isn't for everyone. This definitely would be a good gun for the collector or just a good gun for someone that wants something a little bit different. I love this. I look forward to shooting it even more. And yeah, boys and girls, I think that is it. So thank you for watching. If you like this, please like and subscribe. If you did not, once again, why are you still watching? All right, stay shiny.